I wanted to do a video today to address where I've been in the last month. As many of you know, I haven't put any content out. And typically, when I do videos, I'm doing an interview or I'm teaching on trauma. This one is definitely more of it's personal, and I want to be transparent about what happened. We put a video out, me and Douglas Jacoby, and it led to the safety of my family being threatened. And I want to share about what happened, and I also want to share about what's next. And I want to start out though thanking so many of you who have, I have so many inboxes in different places that are full of people who have expressed their support, their empathy, who've expressed their that they've been praying for us, their encouragement. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you, every single person who has been praying, who has been pulling for us, who has had our back. I thank you. My family thanks you. And I am so grateful. And it's when hard things happen, sometimes it takes a while to really hear the encouragement or be able to hear the encouragement. I definitely think in the last month, I've had some time to kind of heal and process. And the more I heal, the more I can hear. And I need to hear it. I need to receive. I think in some ways I pour a lot out. But I think, in the last month, God has kind of shown me, son, you need to receive. And I just thank so many of you who have poured out love and your generosity and your prayers to us. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you very much. Let me give just a little bit of a context. Look, I know this ministry this channel, this platform is controversial. When you're dealing with pain, when you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with the past, you're dealing with deep stuff. You're dealing with unhealed, unmetabolized trauma that has sometimes been sitting there for decades. And it can be like an atom bomb that goes off when we do conversation. So my goal on this channel has really been to get conversations started that, for whatever reason aren't being talked about or we're not covering them. It's hard, but I really feel like it's been needed. And so many people have shared that it's been helpful. And so last year I kind of experimented with certain content, with certain guests and so forth like that. And I definitely, it's tough, right? You want to, as much as possible, cover things in a way that's respectful. But you also want to make sure that you don't create controversy where you don't have to, or stir things up. And so I'll be honest, I've been worried about having a little bit of that reputation of someone who just stirs things up. And so, yeah, but this year I've been like, you know what? I think I've invested enough in people for them to trust me that that's not my heart. It's time to talk about some stuff. So this year I had this content schedule. Oh man, you should see it. The things I wanted to cover this year really get at the heart of things that I think people really have that they want to talk about. And so I reached out to Douglas Jacoby and I said, hey, look, I would like to cover what is a cult. Definitely need your help with that, Doug. And religious bullying. And I think those two issues I think really need to be touched. I think there's a lot of stuff going on that is just not okay. And, I was willing to use my platform to talk about it. So I reached out to him. We got the videos recorded. The first Tuesday of April, I put out the What is a Cult video. And honestly, when I do my videos, as a content creator, you have a certain audience in mind. So, when you plan videos and content, it's reflective of your viewership. So my channel's not really that huge. I haven't had anything go viral. So I'm just not used to drawing a wide audience. It's been more of a specific audience. So I planned these interviews for that audience that has been representative of my viewership. What I could not account for, at all, is that this was going to draw an audience that I would not have a chance to prepare for or accommodate. And my heart goes out to that audience. More on that later. But so we do this video on a Tuesday. It gets released. By that Wednesday, so by the next day, the comment section had flared up and it intensified at a level that I had never even close to experienced. People were taking shots at me. I mean, some of that I can hear, like criticism and stuff, like, "Oh, you could have done this better," and this, but it was well beyond that. And so I'm like, what is going on? I've never, ever, ever in any of my videos had people abreact like this. And so, for me, I'm like, people are coming at me, and my instinct is to, snap back. But I'm like, that is not okay. It doesn't matter how they're coming at me. I still need to maintain my composure. So I regulated myself, and then I responded. And many of the people that I responded to in the comments, they kind of softened their critique a little bit. And then there were certain people who were just rude. I mean, truly, I'm like, wow, okay. So this is happening. I got friends reaching out to me saying, "Yo, I'm seeing what's happening. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you want me to say anything?" Whatever may have you. And by the next day, I was kind of consumed at that point. I had some folks who were really like, "Hey, maybe you should take the comments off." And my first impulse is like, no way. For a couple reasons. Number one, I don't want to silence people's voice. Yeah, I'm taking shots and stuff like that, but you know what? If there's a lot of people with a lot of feelings, then you know what? Maybe people need to see this. I don't like how I'm being talked to, but I don't want to silence people. That's not who I am. And then there's another part of me that's like, I just felt alone. Like, I wanted other people to see. So, but ultimately, here's what happened. My wife came to me and she's like, "I need you." My wife had just gone back to work. She just gotten back off of maternity leave, and she has a very demanding job. She works in heart surgery. And so her on-call schedule can be very erratic and demanding. And so she's like, your head is in that comment section. I need you in the home. I'm going through a lot. We're going through a lot. And so I turned the comment section off. I mean, I'm going to put my family first. And it's almost like there was a no-win because I turned the comment section off, but then that just kind of escalated things. Things went in a whole nother direction that I just could not believe. I literally could not believe. I had people messaging me from some of these forums. I guess there were forums that people were like, basically my name was on a wanted poster or whatever, and people were reaching out saying, "Hey, you need to protect yourself. This is escalating, and people are going to come, they're coming for you. They're talking about you or whatever." And I'm just, even now, I just think about how traumatic that was for me. It really was. By the next day, which had been that Friday, the safety of my family was threatened. I went up, I showed my wife the threat, and she was like, "We're done. No, we're not doing this." We got 2 kids in diapers. We filed a police report. We even considered going and staying at her parents that night because it was unbelievably rattling. And for me nowadays, you don't know where people are at in their personality structure. Like people, we've been through a pandemic, all the politics, the racial stuff, like the globe is fairly unstable, and you just don't know where people are in their circuitry. I even thought about, even for my local congregation, like I don't want to put anybody else in danger. So it was one of those things to where, I needed to get out of the public eye. I just felt incredibly traumatized is one word for it, but another would be just stripped of my shalom. And it's I think we're working to feel safe again. I think for the most part we feel safe. I definitely still notice some startle responses. I think sometimes when trauma visits us, we get certain gifts. We become hypervigilant, we become very jumpy and whatever. But becoming sort of charged like that is toxic and taxing for the body. And I have a therapist that I'm seeing. We're working through this stuff. I definitely see healing in the future, but there's definitely a journey ahead of me. And I think the thing for me that I've just needed some time to process is just how off-kiltering it was, not just for me to be threatened, but my wife. and our almost 3-year-old son and our 4-month-old daughter. I mean, I actually don't know how to put it into words. Um, my children cannot protect themselves, and it's just, honestly, I don't know how to explain it. But it was very off kiltering. I definitely think that I've had some trust issues since. It feels like it's hard to know who to trust, right? And that's not about really any of you per se. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I've got to really grow and heal through that. And there's been a part of me that's had a lot of rage, wanting to lash out. I mean, when I got hit up, I didn't lash back out. I think as hurt and enraged as I am, though, I can't, for me, allow this situation to take my ability to hold a both and. At the end of the day, when people are hurtful, they're hurting, and my heart goes out to the community of people who just felt hurt about the video. Like, I'm someone who cares about people who have been marginalized, people who have been abused by institution, whatever. Like that is at the core of what I care about. And to think that there were a whole bunch of people who felt just, gaslighted and minimized and invalidated, I am so sorry. Like, that is not the heart of what I like. That's not my heart, but also I just don't want anybody to be treated that way. And I'm really sorry for people who have been discarded by institution and people who have been treated like trash, people who have been, blamed for things that weren't their fault and bullied. Like, my heart goes out to so many people. I think there's a part of me that wants to lump everyone, who didn't like the video into this group of people who wanted to bring harm into my family. And I don't think that's true. I think there's people who didn't like the video and they don't wish harm onto my family. And I have to hold that both and. It's very hard, but it's true. And I think it's the right and good thing. I think a couple lessons for me. First of all, these big polarizing issues, the polarizations are profound. I mean, absolutely profound. People are not just on one side or the other. They are on the extremes of one side or the other. And I think if there's anything I feel right now is that this, the religious abuse and so forth like that, this is God-sized. Me and my little platform or whatever, I can do what I can, but I mean, this is God-sized. And I think after this, I have I have a really big conviction around that now, that God, like, this is a job for his power. And I think, I don't know, for me, at least at this point, I think I've kind of lost my appetite for the public eye a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about Patreon and so forth like that and where I'm going to be going. But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people out there whose lives are controlled by pain. When you think about the extremes, there were certain people who watched the video, and I get it. For some people, they were very, very hurt, but there were many more people who felt like the video was beneficial for them. And I can't tell you how many people who are upset that the video was taken down because they're like, we need these conversations. I've been waiting for this conversation. I've been waiting for people to bring this up. It's not okay. I want to see change. I'm tired of us not talking about it. Well, you got to be careful when you talk about Bruno. I know it's a song, and Encanto and all that, and we, joke around about Bruno, but Bruno's not a joke. And when you bring deep pain up, it's just, you got to have a plan. And, but I also want to honor, and I think what I'm seeing now and I'm encouraged by is that there is a host of people who are ready to have conversations. They're ready to confront. And I don't mean confront in terms of like come out and, destroy people or whatever, but they're ready to engage. And, it's interesting, this whole thing did not play out the way I thought it would. I thought I was probably going to get some pushback from, potentially, maybe there's leaders who feel blamed all the time by things or whatever. I thought I was going to get real pushback from certain people. I've had a lot of people, a couple of things, people have said, Kyle, this is persecution, hang in there and so forth like that. I've had a lot of other people say, Kyle, Satan does not want this conversation to be had. There's certain people who might get confronted, certain situations that might have to change and really acknowledge certain things. And Satan wants the status quo the way it is. And so the pushback or the persecution that you're getting is reflective of a conversation that Satan does not want us to have. And I would say very prayerfully, if you're somebody who, you feel God's pulling you, you're getting advice, there's some wisdom, you've got a plan, maybe God's going to press something into some of you to take the conversation further. Again, Paul talks about, some of us plant, some of us water. And, it's kind of hard feeling like, I did this conversation or I had this conversation. It did not go the way I kind of hoped it would have gone in many ways. But you know what? I do get excited about someone coming up, and doing it better or taking it further or whatever may have you. The one thing I would say is that I'm somebody who likes to hit issues. I like to plow through and let's do this. We can't be taking the slow approach anymore. We can't be, humming along. There's people who are hurting. We need to engage. Let's go. And yet, if I'm honest, 2,000 years later after Jesus, we still have these issues. We still have abusive institution. We still have religious bullying. And so I think there's this part of me that, again, this is God-sized. And, at the end of the day, this is something that we need God's help with, probably even more than we realize. So what's next? What's next is I'm really getting focused on research and writing. Many of you know, maybe don't know, I've got a book that I'm working on with Michael Burns, and I'm kind of getting to that laser focus point, because when you write a book, this is my first book I've ever written, you got to get almost consumed. And I've really got to streamline my life right now. I'm focusing more on quality over quantity, and I've even on my YouTube channel, when I think about doing 4 interviews a month, so it's an interview every week. There are certain, 500, 600, 700 people maybe who eat it up every single week. And then there's a lot of people trying to play catch up. And I know my videos are robust and so forth like that, but I'm going to do less videos and maybe at some point build them back up. But I'd rather be more planful and mindful about the content that I'm doing. One of the things I'm really excited about is my Patreon community. On my Patreon page, you can find all the stuff that was taken down from YouTube. I even have more content that I was going to put up for the public. No way I'm going to do that now. One is what is disfellowshipping? I've got other videos too that I've got coming out that I'm looking forward to, but the Patreon community is kind of representative of what I need right now. I need a community that feels safe. A community that I'm going to invest in, and they're also going to invest in me as well. But I look forward to getting to know the community that I'm trying to serve. One of the things I want to know is, let's say, I do a poll in the community and they're like, hey, we really want this. And so I can go do that. Okay, let me go get the speaker and let me set that up. And one of the things I want to do is I want to equip people for the lives that they feel called to. And I want to equip, all the research I'm doing. I mean, I do so much reading. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is giving people book reviews and blogs and giving people equipment, giving people the hardware that they need for what they've been through. And so, maybe an interview and a blog, it'll start off that way. I'll get sort of consistent in that and sort of, bring people along. And over time, I'll add to it. I look forward to really meeting needs. So if you want any of the content moving forward for at least the foreseeable future, you're going to have to become a Patreon member. I do look forward to returning to YouTube at some point, hopefully later this year. I've got to I have to reformat and re-strategize how I'm thinking about that space. I think, again, you cannot control who shows up. And there are certain people who can't not watch something they feel triggered by. To some degree, it's almost like people get magnetized to things that trigger them, and they watch it over and over and over. And so, I don't know, I got to figure out kind of what that space is going to look like. For the time being, honestly, I think that my reserves need to pour into my Patreon community, my family, my local church, like. And honestly, I think taking some time to heal out of the, sort of the direct public eye will be helpful for me as well. So I do look forward to it at some point. But just in the meantime, I'm going to be on Patreon. So that's what's going on. I mean this. Guys, I appreciate you helping to grow the channel. I don't think God's done with it, clearly. I wanted you to know what happened. I wanted you to be in the loop. So many of you have just cheered me on. And I couldn't have done it without you. And I'm so appreciative. God's up to something. I guess we're going to find out what that is together. Take care.